back in Studio K. Thank you so much for joining us, for sticking with us. I'm sitting here with Brian from BZ3 Organ Trio. Can I have you introduce yourself, your instruments, and then your bandmates and their instruments, please?
Absolutely. Well, I'm Brian Zimniak. I play the Hammond B3. And right across from me right now, David Feely, the master of the guitar.
That's great. It's a super group. It really is.
Oh, thank you.
It's an Avengers of organ trios, I think.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So let's talk about what we just heard. Two of those were off of your recent release back in March.
Yes.
The first one, Too High, it's a Stevie cover.
It is a Stevie Wonder cover. We actually stumbled on that kind of on the very first gig that we played, and the arrangement kind of just like took shape over the course of the years. And then in the studio, we had a good friend, Julius Collins from Dr. Mambo's Combo and Greasy Meal, join us to add all that good stuff in there.
Yeah, that's so great. Is that your favorite Stevie song?
It has to be.
Okay.
I mean, there's a bunch of them, but yeah, Too High. I think especially from the musician standpoint, most of us when we hear that one, we're like, oh yeah, that's the one.
That chromatic stuff is a lot of fun.
Yes,
definitely. Okay, cool. The second one that you played, Glass Prism.
Yeah.
That's from your album. You just released a single version of it today.
Yes. So the album came out in March, and then we just today we put out a single of it, a little shorter since people like things in shorter increments these days, and we did an AI video for it, so that's out there in the land of Facebook and YouTube and all that good stuff.
Cool. Can you tell me about the decision to do an AI video for it?
It was just one of those things where AI is definitely pretty talked about these days.
Definitely.
And I don't know, we're instrumentalists. I mean, we're not that fun to look at, so we're like, let's do something with this.
Cool. That's so great.
Yeah.
All right, and then the third song was Pickled Herring. Is that a new one?
It is a new one, written by none other than David Feely. So
cool.
we already got plans for the second record in the works, and this one will for sure be on there. So we've been working this one out at most of our live gigs recently.
Awesome. That's so great. Well, so I know that BZ3 Organ Trio has existed for quite some time. I've even seen you at the Jazz Fest, I think, like 6 or 7 years ago.
Okay.
So why did it take so long for you to put out a record then?
It really started on a whim. Kevin can probably remember, like, I was doing a studio session, and the studio had this organ just unused sitting in the corner. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing with that? And they were getting rid of it. I ended up buying it. I hadn't really I'd played organ on gigs before, but I'd never dug in to playing organ. And then a couple gig opportunities fell in our lap, so we kind of put the band together. And but the thing to realize about most musicians is that I'm in 17 bands, Kevin's in 18 bands, and Feely's in all the bands. So it's kind of hard to make time for it, especially like a jazz instrumental project,
Yeah.
And then family stuff.
And then Kevin's a dad, I'm a dad, Feely's working on it, and it takes time. We got bills to pay, so we're all excited about doing this project, and it was kind of for me it was COVID, and kind of realizing that I can do gigs all day long, but it would be nice to kind of leave a mark on doing something original.
Totally. Tell me about why you chose these two cats for the group. How do they get across what you want to get across for the sound of the group?
First, like, speaking of Kevin, we've been playing together for close to 20 years now in a bunch of different projects, and he is kind of like a walking history of most black music in America. I think it would be fair to say. And he's not a historian. He's living the music, and he's forward looking. So he plays everything that this organ trio should ever be. And then David Feely, he is not only just an incredible guitar player, but very like forward focused in terms of like what it is to be a musician today.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, so earlier you were talking about your introduction to the organ. You hadn't played much of the organ before this group.
Right.
Okay.
I'd certainly grown up listening to organ-centric music.
Mm.
You know, I grew up listening to a lot of blues music, so there's a ton of Hammond B3 in there. But I didn't have the opportunity to play it, and you know, those instruments are 400 pounds, and
Yeah.
then you got the Leslie speaker as a sidekick for another 300. So you don't just like happen upon an organ.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Totally. Tell me about how the approach to an organ, a B3 organ, is different than any other keyboard.
Certainly from the organ trio standpoint, I'm doing the bass with the left hand.
Right.
So that in a way it's like being a drummer because you're very independent. You're thinking melody, and lead lines with your right hand, and bass and comping with your left hand. And didn't do it today, but I've got organ pedals too, so
Yeah.
play the bass with the feet sometimes. And then voicings are just a whole lot different on the organ versus the piano. You got to leave more space because there's, as you can hear, an organ note just sustains.
Right.
It doesn't stop playing until you take your finger off it. Whereas a piano, if you play a note on a piano, it decays.
Yeah.
You know, so like you can get a lot more notes closer together in a piano.
Okay, so not very many crunchy chords on
Right.
the organ, and like the Bill
Yeah.
Evans kind of thing. It's less
Exactly.
of that.
That doesn't really work so well,
Okay.
and there's probably an element of physics with overtones in there.
Yeah.
That the overtone structures are a little different, I think, on the organ, but
Yeah.
we'll have to consult somebody else. about
Right.
that.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. I want to shift over to the record that you have out now. It's self-titled, the BZ3 Organ Trio. There's a great variety of originals and covers in there. So tell me about the cover. We heard one of them today, but tell me about the covers that you used for that record and why you chose them.
Originally, when we were kind of putting the ideas for the songs together, I was kind of like really kind of like looking over one of the people that I wanted to help, like special guests with us on the record, like our friend Jesse Larson, who's an amazing singer. I could always hear him doing the song Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do kind of like a funked up version of that. So that's kind of how that one ended up there. I've always, like I said before, always had a love for blues and Texas blues specifically. So my wife's an awesome blues singer. She sings Sugar Coated Love with us on there. The last track of the record is probably the most typical jazz tune on it. It's an old jazz standard called For All We Know, and Fred Steele, a great kind of R&B gospel singer about town, he joins us on that, and that was, Fred and I had a duo gig for a long time, and that was kind of always the song that we would use to close out the night, so I wanted to have him on there,
Totally.
closing out the record.
It's great. You got all your friends on there too.
Exactly.
It's a lot of fun.
Exactly. That was the idea.
Yeah. So how long has this record been in the works, would you say?
You know what? It was a year ago this week that we cut the basic tracks.
Okay.
We went into a studio in the Northeast. We got the basics of the songs, and then kind of over last summer and early fall, we added, our friends,
Yeah.
the vocals and that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. And so for the original content, how does the writing process go for this group? What's the dynamic like?
So far, we've all written independently, but there's all these moments at gigs where we're like, oh, that's a cool riff. We got to make something with that. That's a cool riff. We got to do something with that. So I think there's a bunch of tunes that are kind of like half written as a group that are waiting to be fleshed out.
Yeah, totally. Very cool. I saw that you had your album release show at Crooners
Yes.
in early March. How did that go?
That was a great time because not only did we put out the album, but everybody who played on the album was there for
wow.
it, and they all like performed their specific song with us.
Yeah.
It was an amazing time. It was a great crowd, appreciative audience, and it was just a great reason to get friends together, and because being a musician, you might see like somebody once every 2 months or something, but like with this crew, like if you could get everybody together at once. It was a great time.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. Great. All right. Well, now I want to give you a chance to talk about any upcoming shows that you have.
Here's a cool one. Next Friday, we're doing it's an organ trio double bill. New spot in Uptown called the Green Room. So we're playing first. We're doing an opening set, and then the Greg Koch, Toby Marshall organ trio is up after us. I would highly recommend checking those guys out. Toby is a fantastic organ player, and Greg is a world-renowned guitar player, and we're happy to be doing a bill with those guys.
Yeah.
Every last Wednesday of the month, we're at the Schooner Tavern.
Cool.
And I think that is May 31st this month. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then also the Twin Cities Jazz Fest, 5 p.m. on Saturday, June 24th. We're doing power 75, 90-minute set over at Metronome Brewery.
Awesome. That's great. Got it.
Thanks, Eli.
Yeah, totally. All right, I have a couple of fun questions for you now.
Sure.
If you're cool with that. So who are some of like the legendary like organ trios or organ bass groups that you really look up to?
Oh, for me, I tell you, the two guys I was super into growing up, which aren't the typical organ names, would be a dude, Lucky Peterson, great blues dude, but like he kind of got put in the blues box, but he could play anything, and he was like a singer and guitar player as well. When I was growing up, Stevie Ray Vaughan was big. He had an amazing organ player by the name of Reese Winans, who I think is currently still alive and touring with Joe Bonamassa. Reese is amazing, and then like as I got more into organ, like pretty much every day, all day, I've always got Corey Henry on. Just trying to like absorb him.
Totally.
Joey DeFrancesco, can't beat him, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Have you ever met any of those people?
I briefly met Joey. Lucky Peterson, met him a couple times. He was always super into my girlfriend at the time. So he'd kind of come off stage and like be playing the guitar, and then when the last time he was in town, me and my wife Deb went to see him. I got up quickly to go to the bathroom. Keep in mind this was the middle of his set. I came back and he was sitting at our table like playing like a slow blues song to Deb, my wife. Is pretty funny.
Jeez. That is pretty funny. Well, at least you're laughing about it now. That's good. Yeah. All right, cool. Last question for you.
Sure.
This is a scenario question. I want you to build a bill, right? You get to be on the bill. You get 3 other bands with you. You can use your friends here. You can call a friend if you want.
Okay.
And then you need to tell me a venue as well.
Ooh, venue. Okay.
Dream bill. Dead or alive, too.
Oh, dead or alive dream bill. Well, I got to put Stevie Ray on there
Okay.
because there's been nobody like him. I would love to. I don't want to put Corey Henry on there because then I should not play if I'm in the room with that guy. Okay. We'll put Emerson, Lake and Palmer on there.
Nice.
Classic prog rock band. We'll put Stevie Ray on there, and then for the modern stuff, Robert Glasper.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
That's quite the bill. I'll say, where are you putting yourself in that lineup?
Yeah, first for sure.
Oh, yeah?
Opening band.
All right. Cool.
Those guys are legends.
And the venue? Do you have a venue in mind?
Ooh, venue in mind. I would love to do that at a major jazz festival like Newport or Montreux or even Bonnaroo.
Cool.
You know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would go there in a heartbeat for that show. That sounds great.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for coming in. Thank you,
Thanks,
Kevin.
Ian.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. All right, we're going to kick it back to the studio, to the booth, for some more local music until 5 p.m. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Radio K, Real College Radio.